Hey everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV, and today's episode is a Liverpool Transfer Podcast. We usually do these on Friday. We've moved it to Thursday. Don't worry about it, it's absolutely fine. I'm Steve Hood, joined by Chloe Blockton and by Sam Milne of This Is Anfield as well. That was a mouthful for me to say. We're going to be speaking transfers of first part of the show, potential outgoings, including Darwin Nunez and a couple of loans in the offering as well. Second part, incoming, actually, as luck would have it, potential in terms of a double Bournemouth swoop. So yeah, looking forward to that one as well. Some good players to discuss, guys. Thanks for joining me on a Thursday. I will remember how to speak at some point, Chloe. We're going to start with the most divisive, perhaps, man in the current Liverpool squad, Darwin Nunez, who was linked with a move to Saudi Arabia. There was rumours of bids that was quashed, but there's still stuff going on. It's a mad situation with Darwin. From what we're led to believe, in the latest reporting from James Pearce, was that Liverpool have had no contact from anybody, and as far as they're aware, Darwin stays. But there are, 2 or 3 weeks left of the transfer window. Is there anywhere for you where Darwin leaves in this window?
If the bid is right, then absolutely. Look, I'd said Liverpool don't make any mistakes because of the gap and the lead that you've gave yourself. Focus on the league, it's more important, and I totally agree with that. But if a bid of 70 mil actually came in for Darwin Nunez, I don't know how Liverpool couldn't accept it, because I never... You could have said this at any point over the last 2 seasons, and I would have laughed at you if someone would have told me someone will put 70 mil down on the table for Darwin Nunez, because I most certainly wouldn't do it. So I don't know why another football club would do it. But they've clearly got all the money. So I think it's one of them. If there's something where Liverpool feel like they can get someone on the market to replace him, but the problem is it would have to be quick. You can't do it with several days left of the window, because then you've left yourself short. But I'm not sure that money, that it comes to 70 mil in the summer.
I'd be shocked. I suppose, Sam, because it is January, that's the thing. Yeah, I think in the summer, I would actually be more surprised if Darwin Nunez doesn't leave this summer. That would be my personal stance. I think we're probably in the last 6 months or so of his career, you know, a new change of manager hasn't really done much for him. Probably doesn't suit the new manager perhaps as much as he suited the previous one. He's 3 years into his contract now, so if you don't do it now, when do you do it? But even unless you get blown out the water by a ridiculous offer, which 70 million again reported or not, or knocked down, whatever it probably is. Even then, you've probably got a cause if you're Arne Slot here. Don't really want to lose anyone. Unless Richard Hughes has got someone lined up to go with the second that Darwin goes, someone's in. Why would you want to go down to, Liverpool's form and whatever Liverpool do going to win hopefully this season is going to be based on the goals they score. They are lethal in attack. They've got 6, but there's always question marks over Jota's fitness. We don't know what Kerkez is yet. And then you lose Nunez and all of a sudden you've got 3. Like, why would you do it now? Is the big question, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't think there's any chance of him leaving this window unless someone else comes in, and that's the bottom line, really. It would make things interesting as if a £70 million bid did come in, which there hasn't actually been any sign of yet from Liverpool sources. But on that 70 million bid, you think, well, would that not kind of still be there in the summer if it is from Saudi Arabia? It's not like they're in the middle of their league season and they need reinforcements. The other factor you've got to factor in is, would Nunez want to move there? Okay, he'd get a lot of money out of it, but he's still quite young. And the other reported link is AC Milan, which is just a rumour at the moment. But you've got to think, for someone at his age of his career, he'd probably want to move to Italy more than he would Saudi Arabia. And so you've got to take that into consideration as well. So this window, I can't see him leaving because of Jota and Chiesa's fitness worries more than anything, really.
Yeah, and I suppose, Chloe, it's strange with Darwin in a sense, in that I think this new manager, he has given Darwin opportunities. He's played them quite a bit. And again, the injury to Diogo Jota certainly played a part in this, and obviously the lack of fitness from Federico Chiesa. For a while there, we were running with 4 attackers, rotating between 3 positions. But we got to a point where actually the manager was preferring Luis Diaz up front to him as well, you know, who's not a striker. So when Jota was out injured, Nunez would play certain games, but then it felt like the manager always went to Luis Diaz. Even, you know, in recent big games, the manager has preferred Luis Diaz to Darwin. So you get in the sense that the manager's probably... It's a bit like when you're... I don't know, it's a bit like he's not quite kicked out the door yet, but he might be kicking on the couch, Darwin, you know what I mean? It feels like we're heading towards a bit of a divorce here.
Yeah, it's sadly, look, Darwin Nunez, the Darwin Nunez that we saw play for Benfica, especially that one season, he was world class. And I think when he goes to a side that suits him, that doesn't have the same amount of pressure that comes with playing for Liverpool, I think he can be a world-class striker again. I think he's got all the raw ability there. I've never doubted his raw ability. It's just the composure, the calmness. You need him to be so well drilled and it just come natural to you on a football pitch, and it looks like everything is just... It just looks awkward is the only way I can explain it. It looks like there's about 20,000 thoughts running through his head when he's got the ball at his feet. He doesn't necessarily always know which one to choose. And footballers go through that, and you've got to find somewhere where you're comfortable. And I think Liverpool just maybe isn't the place where he's comfortable, whether it be the English factor, whether it's the intensity or tempo of the game, whether it's the pressure on your shoulders of being a number 9 for Liverpool. Never mind a number 9 who Liverpool spent, I think it was 85 if you add all the add-ons on. Like, that's a lot of money. And Liverpool are the kind of team where you cannot, like, we just can't afford to pay 80-something million on a player who isn't our number 1. Liverpool could win a league title this season, and Darwin Nunez is not the first name on your lips, and yet he is your £85 million striker. And I feel like that should be, it should be that. And it's not, obviously, because there's Mo Salah there, Virgil van Dijk there, Trent there, we get that. But people will say Cody Gakpo's name, or they'll say Diaz's name, or Diogo Jota, who's not been available as much this season. They're the names that people will pull up, or, you know, any Maka, any of the midfield. And it just feels like it maybe shouldn't be that. So it's one of them, like you said, unless Liverpool can find a replacement and one that they think is good enough in the January transfer window, they won't sell him. The only reason why I said it wouldn't be that money in the summer is because it's January and prices go up in January because you're trying to buy players out of their football clubs in the middle of a season. So you're not paying for what they're worth to you. You're also paying what they're worth to the team. Yeah. Exactly. So that is why I'd say there's more money. People would potentially offer more money in January, Trent being the number 1 inclusion there. But yeah, it just feels like it hasn't worked out. And I think Slot, where Klopp, other managers might try and force a way to find you in the team. Slot's very much not that. He's ruthless, and we've learned that. So it feels like he is on the fringes, and he still might have a massive part to play this season. Let's hope he does, because as long as he's in a Liverpool shirt, I will always back the lad. But it just feels like it felt like this was his last season to prove something, and so far it's not gone that way.
Yeah, makes me think. I wouldn't be doing anything. Again, unless the money was like stupidly ridiculous and you could get someone in, why would you hamper your chances? You know, there's a lot of people talking about Liverpool need to actually strengthen in this window. You don't need to take any players out of this squad. You probably want to keep them where they are.
But this is the thing as well, that even if he's not our best number 9, he can still contribute something towards the end of the season. And while that might not be, say if he goes and has a run of scoring 3 or 4 in a few games, if that gets us over the line, but we know it's not for the long term, it doesn't matter. We win in the league. That's why you spend your money ultimately.
Absolutely.
But then in the long term, we know it's just not going to be consistent.
Yeah, I think it's fair enough. That's a potential outgoings on loan then. According to James Pearce, he done a little bit of a piece in the Athletic. Chloe, I'll start with you. He said Liverpool will consider loans for both Jaden Danns and James McConnell. Let's start with James McConnell first. Then the interesting one with the way those seasons worked out this year is obviously the FA Cup is in February and it's past the deadline day. So you would like probably to keep a couple of these lads around for one more game, because you'd say actually if they play their 4th round of the FA Cup and then the window closes, but the window closes on the Monday and then the FA Cup is the following weekend, so you can't do that, which might explain the interest in these two. I was speaking to someone recently from the academy who was very, very, very complimentary of James McConnell. I actually asked about Jaden Danns, and he was like, don't forget about James McConnell, like, you know, we think as good as him. He feels like a loan could make sense for him. You know, Liverpool are probably going to keep Talamon around, it looks like. He's like the senior junior defensive midfielder, if that makes sense. McConnell might be a little bit below him in the pecking order. I feel like McConnell, a good loan for James McConnell could do him the world. He's probably not going to get too many minutes here. Yeah,
the minutes are few and far between for both of those lads. I mean, Plymouth feels like the only game really, unless you get, you know, another relatively nice fixture in the round after that if you make it through. But Liverpool will have to make the decision, because once again, I'd say don't make any silly, stupid mistakes. Don't, lose players from the team. But it does feel like these two lads, Jaden Danns is different. James McConnell, it feels like there is enough centre mids there who, Tyler Morton, like you said there, can be called upon with Endo when he's not playing at centre half and doing an absolutely boss job at that. So yeah, I think this is the time for him to go on and develop these lads. We've seen what it's like. I mean, Jaden Danns had it, but we've also seen it with Stefan Bajcetic when they're called upon. You get a lot of like niggles and like growing pains basically when playing football and when you're under stress of playing so much football. So they need the experience to go out, build into the shape, build into being more of a lad, and then come back fitter, stronger, healthier, and be able to deal with the intensity that's offered, but also the muscle, the championship, that really helped Tyler Morton, because he doesn't look strong, but he's certainly got it, because he's had how long in the championship going up against lads who'll just smash into you. Yeah. It really does help. And look, clearly the club think a lot of him. I really enjoyed him last season when he came on and played for us, and unlike the likes of Bobby Clark, who we actually let go, there was a reason we didn't let James McConnell go. So yeah, let's enhance his development, and hopefully he can continue to grow and be as good as what the club think he will be.
And on Danns, I'll come to you on him to start with, Sam. Like, we've all seen the flashes of how good Jaden Danns can be. He played under 21s last night. I think, was it 21s? The Youth League, scores a goal, plays an hour, scores a very good goal. Again, for Jaden Danns' career alone actually might be a real positive. But from a selfish Liverpool point of view, there's definitely a case for keeping him around. If you're worried about, if you're gonna fire your way to the league title, as many attackers as possible. And Jaden's shown he has got an eye for goal. He could be one who plays in that Plymouth game. There could be a couple of Champions League outings, 2 games where Liverpool, in theory, are relatively safe in that competition. I feel like I would be less inclined to loan Jaden out, but like I say, for the good of his career, it might be good for him to go and play regular Championship minutes.
Yeah, I think the difference with Danns to McConnell is I think Danns has already got some of the physical attributes that he needs to be in the first team, whereas McConnell feels like McConnell went under the radar a bit at the start of the season because he was injured over the summer, and he was linked with Hull, I think, but I think that's the reason he didn't go out on loan, because he did have an injury. And if you look back to last season, McConnell was actually fantastic. He played an FA Cup game, which none of the other youngsters played. Then he played in the League Cup final and was absolutely brilliant. And when he first started, we thought he was more of a number 6, but he's showing he got a bit more to his game than that now. Even against Accrington Stanley, he was being brave with his passes and trying to run with the ball as well. But I think a loan is probably best for him because he's not quite as developed, whereas Danns, he's got the physical attributes. I think personally, this sounds a bit harsh on Nunez and maybe jumping to conclusions, but I think he might be a better option than Nunez at the moment.
I think a lot of people in the chat are agree.
And I don't think that Slot will probably do that, because what does it tell you, number 9, who we did pay 80 million for, and it might upset the apple cart a bit there. But I personally would be keeping Danns around, yes. He was linked to Plymouth in the summer, but there was an injury, and then it was probably good that he didn't go to Plymouth as well, given how their season's gone. It's also a long way. If you look at where we like to loan our players, it tends to be in the north, close to home, and Plymouth is 400-mile round trip.
That one, mate.
Can't wait for it. That one I will be staying over for.
Chloe can report back and tell him how far away it is.
Nowhere near my house is the answer.
And so I would like to see Dan stay around, but only if he's going to get minutes.
That's the thing, isn't it, Chloe? That you've got to be able to do both, because the value for him is he was meant to go out. By all accounts, he was going to go out on loan this season, have that season like what Lewis Kumas is having or Ben Dokes having, which are real positives for them. At the season Harvey Elliott had, the season Tyler Morton had, that's what you were hoping for. Listen, loans can go badly, and if you look at someone like, for example, a Calvin Ramsey who couldn't get a kick and he's gone back out again to Scotland now, loans can be good or negative depending if you play. But if you're worried about loaning a player out, he wasn't going to play, to then keep him around and then not play him feels counterproductive. There was obviously a decision somewhere made at one point that they wanted Jaden Danns playing loads of footy. But again, I go back to it from a selfish point of view. it isn't the worst thing to say. You know, I saw him come on the other day and I just thought he's going to score. He's just got something about him. He looks like he could be a real special player for us.
Yeah, it's a tough one because, like we've mentioned, the opportunities that he's going to get after that Plymouth game, probably it won't be a lot because of the pecking order, because Darwin Nunez is your £80 million striker who just has more senior appearances. He's got more experience than you. But I think we all agree that I was excited when Jaden Danns came on the pitch, and I would like to see him. I think he can have an effect in the game, and I think he backs himself enough to do so. But Liverpool need to decide what they want to do. I wouldn't be taking any risks, but at the same time, I know that might be haltering his career. He's had a couple of setbacks with injuries. He's now finally fit, and you're saying to him, you're going to play Plymouth and then that might be it, mate, but we really need you around. To be fair, he might enjoy it because you're learning to be around winners and you're getting the mentality and the feeling of what it feels like to have to be in big moments. He
said that himself.
And I think he would enjoy it, but also you are potentially limiting his quality and his growth, because under 21s it feels like he's just too good for that. And yet playing consistently for Liverpool week in, week out, when they're going for a title charge, it's just not going to happen to a young lad. It's just not going to happen. So it's a tough one. It's a tough call. I would still be in the boat of keeping him and just saying, I absolutely apologise, but if we lift this title, that experience and being in that moment, you will love even more. And then you start again. Liverpool might have individual programs or whatever, because like we said, he's had a couple of setbacks, so maybe keep him close and make sure that we're not throwing him in at the deep end. We're looking after him well enough, because we don't want him to start next season and get another injury and not be able to go out on loan.
I suppose as well, Sam, like there is a case to say, if you're going to go out on loan, I always feel like you probably want to go in the summer, like a season-long loan. Getting thrown into a team now, listen, it can work, but that, you know, because God knows how many managers change in the Championship. Like, the Championship is a law unto itself.
Masters had about 4.
Yeah, things change there all the time. It's a crazy situation. You know, West Brom, similar thing for as well. Like, teams just change managers over and over and over, and sometimes it can be a destabilising factor. There is a sense to say, rather than getting thrown into a Championship team, is either like, go and save us, Jaden, or can you be that missing piece? Stay at Liverpool for 6 months and then get yourself a loan early in the next transfer window, where you get a pre-season with your new team, with your new manager, and they can build something that you're part of, rather than being like Jaden Danns is available, let's go and get him, because that feels like what it would be now.
But you talk about being that man that maybe a Championship team turn to. I think he would thrive off that.
Yeah, he would.
Having seen what I've seen of him, which obviously it's hard to tell because most of it is youth football, I think he likes being the main man. He's not just a goal scorer, he can link play up. I think Dan's probably seen more and said he's like Harry Kane, which I'm not quite sure on yet. But I do think he's got that ability to be a proper number 9, and we've said the slot is kind of quite ruthless, especially with youngsters. We haven't really seen much integration yet, apart from against Accrington Stanley. But if Danns were to be one who slipped through the net and went on to have a great career elsewhere, I'd be a bit gutted. Yeah,
I think he looks like a very, very promising player. And again, we'll see what the future holds for him, like in the immediate future, but also long-term future. I think he's got something about him. Personality as well, I think that's huge. Like, it isn't just the ability. I think you've got to be a big personality to play for Liverpool, and he seems like he's got that in abundance. Chloe, he scored like 3 goals for us now, 3 senior goals. Again, albeit in FA Cup against lower league opposition, but he is a teenager. You know, he's 18 at this moment. Like, he's not like anywhere near the finished product. Have you been excited from what you've seen of him? Because we've seen, I mean, it's probably been like 2 hours total max of him in a Liverpool shirt, but it's what, 2 hours it's been.
Yeah, I've been excited. I mean, his goal he creates, I mean, Chiesa should get him the assist. It turns out Chiesa decided to repay the favour and said, you did that well, you ought to have a tap in. But the thing I like is that he's always on his toes, he's so energetic, he reads the danger well, and he's always in a position where the ball might drop to him. He's quite intelligent in that way, and like you said, off the pitch you've got to have a big personality, and he definitely seems like he does does have a big personality, but he also seems down to earth. He seems humble. He knows that he can't get ahead of himself. He needs to work extremely hard to carry on this run of form. And when he's being interviewed and people are trying to get lines from him for the media, he's just not gave them anything. I mean, the other day he was asked about potentially, like, are you a bit frustrated that, you're doing so well and yet Darwin Nunez is over there and not doing great and you're not above him? And he turned around and was like, I'm a kid. Like, are you messing? I'm thankful for the opportunity that I've gotten today, even if it was only however many minutes. So he's got a good head on his shoulders, and that's what I really like. He's determined, and he loves Liverpool as well. He's proper scouse.
Yeah, he is. It's always a benefit. I love that from him as well. Right, then we're going to go to a quick break. That was the potential outgoings for this section of the show. We'll come back in part 2 with some potential incomings, actually talking about Kerkez and Semenyo, both from Bournemouth. Both have been linked with moves to Liverpool this week. Come and join us for that after this quick message.
Hello over there, just wanted to tell you what you could win if you were in our Club Legend prize draw for January. This is a biggie. We're starting the new year off with a bang. It's this, a signed Liverpool shirt signed by Ian Callaghan, proper Liverpool royalty, the record appearance maker for the Reds. 857 appearances he made. Not all in this shirt, you'll be glad to know, but if you want to get yourself a chance of winning this, head to redmenplus.com, sign up as a Club Legend or upgrade your existing subscription and you might just be the lucky winner.
Get yourselves involved, redmenplus.com, join as a legend subscriber, get loads of extra content, so you get more of everything, including more of the wonderful Chloe Bloxham in your lives, and if you sign up as a legend, that's always a good thing. You can never have too much Chloe in your life. If you sign up as a legend, like I say, you'll be in a prize draw each and every month. That's one of the benefits you get. This month's prize is a shirt signed by Ian Callaghan. That is a great prize. Probably too good a prize to give away to someone, to be honest with you. But that's what we're going to do because we're just fantastic, Chloe. It's what we do.
Yeah.
It's what we do.
It is.
You can pick February's prize if you want to. You can have a little rummage through later if you want to. So Chloe's got February's. That's one of your jobs. There you go. February's prize. Can you the last two we've given away have been Kenny Dalglish and Ian Callaghan. So it's a high bar. You might have to see what we've got. We've got some good stuff over there though. So I trust you to make a good decision.
Okay. So I can't reach those heights, I don't think, but I can try.
I think you'll be fine, mate. You're absolutely sure. Maybe you could sign something for the people.
I think that'd be that we would be having a problem if that's what we're giving away.
TV superstar personality, Chloe Bloxham, get a share signed. Anyway, right, let's move on to the next section of the show. The probably part that most people are more interested in. Incomings. According to a report, Sam, from the iPaper, Mark Douglas, who to be fair is pretty clued up when it comes to these kind of things, Liverpool are planning to gazump rivals Manchester United and Manchester City to sign Milos Kerkez as Andy Robertson's successor at left back. The impressive Bournemouth defender has attracted an army of suitors since arriving in England in the summer of 2023. The iPaper has been told that Liverpool City and United have already started to make contact with the players' representatives. It is understood that the 21-year-old favours a move to Anfield over their Manchester clubs. So that's where we're at with Kerr. It appears like his name's been banded around for a while, Kerk, as you'll know, this writing for This Is Anfield, his name's been around for in actually quite reputable sources for quite a while.
November, I think.
Yeah, it's been a fair while since since the name's been. Actually, it started in Hungary, didn't it? You're right, and I know Dominic Szoboszlai was asked about it back then and things like that. So it feels like there's legs in this one. It's worth mentioning Bournemouth apparently have got no ambition to sign anyone in January because why would they? They're having such a good season.
Bournemouth have signed a left back though.
But they have signed a left back, whether that's succession planning or they're expecting something to happen. Again, before I ask the question, I'm giving everyone the outline. James Pearce has reported again in the Athletics today. He thinks it's unlikely Liverpool would have 3 senior left backs on the book in January. It feels like a little bit over the top, but it appears like Kerkez is the man they're going to go for, and it appears that they're quite happy to wait for him as well and wait for that summer because they think he's the best option out there. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, if we're willing to gazump Man City and Man United, we must be pretty serious.
Thoughts on gazumps, Cole?
No.
It's 50 million a gazump, I'd say it is. Well, 50 million sounds like what Bournemouth are asking, and given that Andy Robertson's, I wouldn't like to say he's finished, but I don't think he can any longer be relied on as a first choice left back that can get you 90 points plus. And Tsimikas is clearly not a long-term option. I think 50 million for a left back in this day and age sounds about right. That is only if Kerkez is the right option, of course. And given the fact we've been linked with him for a while, it does suggest that we have been scouting him, and we know that FSG and the sporting director won't just go for a player because he's the second choice. Whereas the fact we have been linked for a while suggests to me that he is someone we'd like to sign. And a bit like Robertson, I haven't watched loads of Kerkez, but when I have watched him, he's just been solid. Like Robertson at Hull, I mean, before he signed for us. And I think that's what we need. We've got a flying right back on the right hand side, and I think perhaps with Van Dijk hopefully staying and maybe getting older, we could do with someone like Kerkez, who can go forward, has got a good delivery, but is just quite solid and knows his place at the back as well.
So I've got a question here from Mr. J Mango, and it's one I was about to post on similar close, that can we really afford to wait to sign the left back when Robbo's performing the way he is? Because that is the question. If they think he's the right man, sound. I think we'd all agree Andy Robertson's having a bit of a tough time of things recently. Kostas Tsimikas is doing quite well. I think I would say that. I don't want to put words in anyone's mouths, but yeah, there is a league title to be won. Liverpool are the massive favourites still to win that league title. Yeah. All the odds and any stats thing that you look at suggest Liverpool are heavy favourites, even despite the fact that they've had a couple of draws in recent weeks. But I think if I'd ask you this, is left back the position that you probably could most improve in the starting 11? And if so, it could be worth doing something in this month. Everyone's talking about midfield, centre back, but actually in terms of improving Liverpool's 11, I think left back might be the easiest one to solve, because it feels like Robbo's having a real tough time of things at the minute.
Yeah, it most defo is an area where Liverpool need to go and improve, and they probably need to do it now, I won't lie. I think Liverpool, whilst they're on top, while you've created this gap, I think you need to go and buy and you reinvest, because you, even just signing a big player, what that does is it annoys everyone else. You know, you go and sign Kerkez when everyone's thinking that Andy Robbo is one of your main problems. You're conceding too many goals. He's just not as a good enough left back anymore. Like, it's a dig to everyone else as well. The top, they've got a game in hand with 4 points behind, and they're signing players. That's annoying. And that's a big thing. But yeah, I think it's fair to say that Andy Robbo just isn't of the level. He's been an absolute hero for Liverpool. I've adored watching him play football. He's been brilliant. But doing that left-back role in a Jurgen Klopp team means that you are absolutely exhausted, and he's gave everything for us. He's won the biggest trophies that there is to win, and sadly he has just fell off a cliff. Like, I can't lie about that. He rivaled Trent. They had a brilliant rivalry in terms of assists, and you always knew that. I think everyone used to sit there and say, yeah, Trent might be exposed at times, especially the positions he plays and how he gets out of, he's not always in a defensive line. And you always would look over the other side and go, yeah, but we've got Robbo. We've got Robbo there, and he still gives absolutely everything. I've got no doubt about that. But the quality is just not there. He's not sharp enough. I mean, you always used to think if someone beats Trent, the ball back post, it's okay, we've got Robbo and Verge on that side. Where now I'm just seeing Robbo get turned inside out. Everyone's beating him at the back post. They're cutting across him. How many goals has a ball gone into the box and Robbo's just being beaten because he's flat-footed, or he's just not ready for it? There's been times where he's been spun in the box and the balls came to their feet, he's been spun, it's gone in. He's having not a great season, and if Liverpool want to go and win the league title, you feel like you need to have a really good stability, and we had that for a large part of the first half of the season, but in recent, in the last month and a half, it felt like Liverpool are a little bit vulnerable. And Kerkez is a brilliant player. I love watching him play. So much energy. Attacking wise, his delivery, his quality, he's pacey, but like you said there, defensively he's strong, he doesn't let people beat him, and he's really switched on, he's alert. Kostas, we've spoken about, is good, but I don't think anyone's ever thought he's been good enough to be that. He was never bought to be the number one left back for Liverpool, so why you think he's going to be that now, I'm not too sure. I think he should be starting over Andy Robbo right now, but that doesn't mean he's good enough to be your left back for a 90-point season. He's still got really decent qualities, but if I was Liverpool, I would certainly be trying to do everything I could to get him to be a Liverpool player this January, certainly this summer. And look at the names that we've just listed off who are in competition with us. They're big football clubs and teams who are looking to rebuild. And it feels like we kind of need to rebuild that left-back situation, and he would be a brilliant player.
It's interesting, Sam, because you're right. We spoke before, Bournemouth already signed. It's Soler, isn't it? The Argentinian, wasn't from Argentina. They paid like around 11-12 million pound for him. There is talk again in various reports that 50 million pound would do it. It's a difficult one because I also see the point of it's tough to have 3 senior left backs. But
I'm sorry, you're going to have to be ruthless and tell them that. I don't get what you're trying to do though. Because
no, I'm just saying. I think it's
Andy Robbo right now is not a good enough left back. I am so sorry. I adore the man with my entire being, but he is not of a level. He is. How many years has everyone gone, it's sound, we'll just exploit him behind Trent? Now it's not like that. It's have a go at either left back because lads, you've got a chance. No, you can't have that. And Trent, even though sometimes can be a liability at right back, and I actually think he's done decent so far this season defensively, what he offers you going forward is all you've always been able to be like, oh well, yeah, but he offers this. Robbo, I'm not seeing that side of Robbo this season either. I you know that you're going to have to address it in the summer anyway. That is a nailed on thing. If you can somehow get a deal done over the line now, and it helps you in a sense to win the Premier League as well, and you've got the money there, and you're going to do it in the summer anyway.
I'm completely with you. The interesting one is he's changed agent as well. He's now got the same agent as Kerkez. It's obviously someone who's used to dealing with Liverpool.
Richard
as well.
Hughes also bought.
Richard Hughes, the one who brought him to Bournemouth. He's done it
Holland, wasn't it? Yeah.
So there's loads of links there. Again, everyone keeps saying it, and I get it. I think if you're looking at, you're worried about burnout of certain players, I think you're looking at a DM potentially in the window, maybe something a centre back because we've got issues. I think the easiest way to improve Liverpool's 11 right now is probably at left back, and I think that's the place where you could go now. Whether they're willing to do it and whether the manager wants to and all that kind of things are different questions, Sam. But it feels like there's a player there they like for the fee that you could probably get him for. Like unless they've had this conversation and Bournemouth have said no, it just isn't happening. And we know Liverpool in that situation would rather wait than go and buy the second lad on their list because that's just how it's the way their model works. But yeah, especially because Bournemouth have got themselves a replacement almost. It feels like it is something that you probably, if you were desperate to, you could push a button on.
I think it's easy for us to say because it's not our money we're spending as such. But for me, what that 50 million comes down to is, does it help us win the league? If it gives us a better chance of winning the league, which I think we'd all agree it does, then do it, because we've had a couple of seasons of transition. But the thing is, we're Liverpool and we want to win trophies. And yes, you can say it's a season of transition, but next year Arsenal and City could be back up there. You don't get to Christmas and be top of the league 2 years in a row and not make any signings, and then get to the end of both years and be like, oh well, we'll just do it next year. We don't get that many chances to win football leagues. And for me, why are we all in this? Why are we saving the money by not buying players and, only going for first choice? It's so we can get into this position of strength and strengthen again. And if we're not spending that money to win the football league, then why spend it at all? For me,
yeah, makes sense.
Can I say, Arsenal did not buy a striker. They bought Kai Havertz. He's not an out-and-out striker. They've not bought a striker for 2 years. They've not won the league because they did not buy a striker. They are now in January realising, oh my God, Manchester City have fell off a cliff. This should be our league title. And we've messed it up because we didn't address the glaring, obvious problem that we've been having. And we didn't put the money on the table. We didn't do it for whatever reason. It could have been Arteta, because I get those vibes from him. It could be the ownership, I'm not sure. But now Arsenal are still in touching distance with Liverpool. Yeah, we've got a game in hand, 4 points. It's great to be where we are because you'd rather have the points on the board. But they are still within touching distance. And yet they're now trying to, I mean, look how furiously it looks like Arsenal are trying to get things done. I mean, Zubamendi's one, they're looking at strikers, they're looking at other points. Look at City. They didn't reinvest in that squad. They told the same squad to go again. They got rid of Julian Alvarez and just thought that it'd be fine and they'd have enough quality in players. I mean, sometimes, sadly, when you miss those opportunities, chances can go begging. You just really don't want to be that side because we know how hard it is to win a league title. And Arsenal are now paying for not buying a striker for the past 2 summers. And they're going to try and get something done to try and improve their chances of winning a league in January, which means there's so much more problems that could happen. It's a higher chance, it's a higher risk. You're going to have to pay more money. And they're trying to close the gap. Come the summer, Liverpool, other teams will be interested in Kerkez, and maybe City have stabilised themselves and they've brought in a load more attractive players. Maybe Arsenal, who knows, they could win the league, I don't know. I hope Liverpool do, obviously, but I can't rule them out. Who knows what position those other teams are going to be in? And then they look like an even better project again. I just think for a Liverpool perspective, you've seen the 2 teams. The reason you're potentially going to win a league title is because the other 2 teams have all of a sudden dropped off when they should be there to pick up the pieces. And it's because they've not refreshed the squad. It's because they've let old players. They've got a midfielder, Kevin De Bruyne, who hardly plays and can't run. A wonderful footballer, but can't really run. They've got Kovacic in the midfield, who is really good but can't run. They've got Bernardo Silva in the midfield, who's really good but can't run. Matheus Nunes, the lad who can run, they're playing at right back or left wing or anywhere else but midfield. Like these are teams who've sadly took the risk and not realised the problem.
I think it's also worth mentioning, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, I think if Liverpool don't sign anyone in this window, I still think Liverpool can win the Premier League.
Yeah,
I think the idea of, and I see it in the chat, like if they don't strengthen, they've got no chance. I don't buy that. But I think they can make it easier for themselves by doing. I think I don't. This idea that if they don't buy anyone, they're fucked and they're finished and they've got no chance. I don't personally believe that, but I do think they can make it a lot easier on themselves if they go and do something.
I would say that if we don't buy anyone, at this moment in time, it looks like we'll win the league because other teams haven't been very good, which is the difference. And I just don't want to get to the end of another season of us having dropped off in February to April and thinking, what if? Because I don't think that's really acceptable for a club with our amount of money to be able to do that 2 years in a row. You wouldn't be annoyed at the players, you wouldn't be annoyed at Slot. That's where the ire would start to go towards whoever's making the transfers, because it's clear that the players just didn't have it in them for a year. It's Slot's first season. So where do you expect that extra injection like we had with Diaz in 2022?
I think a lot of people are getting worried a little bit because like the 2 draws on the run.
This is all what if.
Yeah, the 2 draws on the run have kind of with everyone, like, it is still worth mentioning Liverpool are clear and Arsenal are going to have to go on some run. And as of yet, Arsenal again, they've shown no sign of going on the run, but it's like saying you can make things easier for yourself, and at this moment in time it looks like from what we heard, like for example, like the guy they really want, they're not going to push the button on, which is a bit disappointing. Let's move on to the Semenyo story, because again, this one could, I'm guessing again, this is looking forwards, but this came, it's a weird way this comes out, so bear with me. It comes from the Northern Echo, which is ironically up in the northeast, which is about as far away from Bournemouth as you can possibly get. So you're probably wondering how links. But according to their sources, there are people at Middlesbrough, who are worried a little bit about Ben Doak's future on loan there, because there's a thought that Liverpool could bring Ben Doak back from the loan, give him to Bournemouth in some type of package deal that gets Antoine Semenyo to Liverpool. That makes sense?
Yep.
Bring Doak back, send him to Bournemouth, and with some money, and then you get Semenyo. That's the report out of the northeast. They said Liverpool have attacked him. Liverpool have identified Semenyo as a leading long-term attacking target, with the 25-year-old having been one of the stars of the Premier League season so far. It says here he scored 6 goals in all competitions. It might be 7 now. I think he scored the other day, didn't he? Right, saying, so it might be that he's
a goal as well.
Yeah, I think so. It's actually, he's higher now. He scored against Chelsea the other day, so even more goals in it for you. His name, ironically, was linked a long time ago I think it was in the summer when Liverpool reported wingers targets. Brian Mbeumo and Semenyo were both linked, and ironically, they both had really good seasons. So someone can identify a player if they can't get them in. Again, it would be odd to do this now, Chloe. I don't see this happening, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Liverpool signed a player like Semenyo. You know, it's a good age, around 25. They've seen him have success in the Premier League. They know his body can handle the Premier League. He's played well against Liverpool a couple of times, which doesn't hurt either. It feels like, a lot obviously depends on the futures of a Nunez and a Salah and a Chiesa and whatever, but I don't think it's that far-fetched that Semenyo is a Liverpool player. It feels like the type of target he could go for. Again, Richard Hughes knows him quite well as well.
Yeah, really good player, dangerous, so much pace, really good technically. His close control's a joke, and he's one of the danger men for Bournemouth, and they're having an incredible season. The Doak switch move, I can understand, depending on how much money it is and everything like that. It depends on what I'd do, but I certainly think he's a wonderful footballer, and Liverpool, amongst other top clubs, will definitely have their eyes on him, because I think he fits the system, he fits the mould of what we like to follow in terms of buying players, and yeah, like we've said, he's really, really good. I can't see it obviously happening now in the summer. I mean, it would have to, one of the front six would have to go to bring him in, but he's a really exciting footballer, really good, big fan of him. It just, this is something in the summer to look at. I don't know what it says about the likes of Salah and things, but he would certainly be an exciting talent to have.
I suppose, it could just be Liverpool doing their due diligence. They'd be mad not to, Sam, because there's a world where they don't have Mo Salah next year. Hopefully they do, and we all hope that the contract situation gets signed. And it's worth mentioning that hasn't gone anywhere yet. I know people are losing their shit over transfers, which happens every January. The world falls apart, but the contract thing is probably a bigger priority for the long term success of Liverpool. But if they have to be looking at elsewhere anyway, they're always scouting. They've got scouts all over the world. What's ironic is that it feels in this situation, let's believe the reporting, that they don't see Ben Doak as that. He's having a good championship season. They see it more like Ben Doak might be a saleable asset. Ipswich have had bids for him. Crystal Palace have had bids for him. Teams tend not to bid for players unless there's an inkling they can get them. So it feels like the Ben Doak situation might be more a case of they're happy to let him go and use that money to invest in another player in a similar position.
Yeah, and I hope it's not the case, because I really like Ben Doak, and I think we need someone to play when Salah can't play, assuming that he stays next year. But it does feel like, given that Palace have had those 2 bids submitted, and as you say, normally you don't bid without some kind of inclination that you could get a deal done, it feels like he's one that can be sold, a bit like Brewster was, a bit like Solanke was. But it's going to cost 30 million by all accounts. So if we say 30 million's the value, and then you add in however much on for Semenyo, is that quite a lot for Semenyo, or is that just a going rate, do we think?
50 feels like that's what you got to play for any Premier League player now. Any Premier League player who's playing well, it feels like you start at that number. That's just like the number that it is now. That always weird.
I would say the other thing is, I believe that in the report talking about Kerkez, they denied the Doak to Bournemouth. Yeah. So I'd probably be more inclined to believe that than a Northern Echo source, although I'm sure they see it as true, but because of the Middlesbrough link. But I'd be more likely to believe the iSource. So it doesn't feel like something that could happen for me in January. I do like Semenyo. He's good with his back to goal as well, which I think we need a lot from our forwards, given that how little space they have to work in at times. But it's hard. I think it's difficult to know what Slot wants from his centre forward at the moment, because this season I feel like we've almost just been making do. Now, making do with Luis Diaz and Diogo Jota's all right for most teams, and it has been for us so far, but it does feel like we've been very flexible with what we want our centre forward to look like this year. And if you look at the final team, it was almost a bit more of I wouldn't say a target man, but Slot did like to have a bit more of a traditional number 9. Yeah, it was Jimenez, and he's definitely more in the Semenyo mould than I would say Diaz definitely and Jota is. And so it's kind of hard to know whether Liverpool wants Semenyo at this moment, but I think we all love a forward signing, don't we? And you get fans excited. So
yeah, absolutely. The general rule, again, Chloe, we say this, it feels like Liverpool transfers can just come out of nowhere, so they might be working on stuff now, they might not be. Everyone, it depends. Like, some people are just so anti-ownership and anti-Richard Hughes, Michael Edwards, they'll refuse to believe that anything positive could be happening. There's some people who might be holding out hope. There's some people who are just chilling with it because we're top of the league and people are having a good time. It doesn't, whatever you are, you be you and you be you yourself. It is worth, again, it is worth reiterating, like, Liverpool do have a good team and a good squad, and he's actually got loads of players available to him at this moment on a slot, and there's talk about burnout and things like that. There are a lot of players around, but we just don't quite know exactly what he feels of some of them, or maybe we do. Someone like a Wataru Endo or a Harvey Elliott, they're just too, they've been fit pretty much all season. Elliott had the injuries, granted, but before and after the injury, he hasn't really featured. Like, the manager has the options there to rotate if he wants. So is this a case of he just doesn't think they're that good? Is he just a manager who just likes having a real small team and a real small squad, and regardless, he wouldn't be picking them anyway? We're still actually learning a lot about Arne Slot, and that kind of plays into this. Like, we're all saying, like, go and get the Gravenberch back up, and I completely agree, Liverpool are light in defensive midfield if he doesn't like Endo. But I don't know, Arne Slot, is he a manager who just wouldn't pick that player anyway? And therefore, why would anyone come to Liverpool to just not kick a ball? His lack of rotation might be hurting him in terms of he is looking to add squad players, because actually Liverpool haven't played too many squad players. He's relied on a core of 14, 15 players. The other lads have got games in League Cups and that really. He hasn't really shown a willingness to include some really good players in his team. And I'm just thinking, if you're trying to sign someone to come and back up a Ryan Gravenberch, you might be thinking, well, I'm never going to play because he picks him every week.
Yeah, but there's also no one rivaling Ryan Gravenberch for Slot to have those conversations, are there? That is the other thing.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is it? That's my point. Like, for example, he might just.
But we don't know.
That's exactly.
If we tried to sign Zubimendi, so there was clearly Zubimendi was close to joining Liverpool.
And Gravenberch probably would have been number 10 right now.
And Gravenberch might have not been that DM.
Yep.
Or it might have been they rotated between them, or Ryan Gravenberch moved a little bit further up the pitch. Like, there was clearly a defensive midfielder there that we liked. Ryan Gravenberch playing the number 6 was never the idea at the start of the season, because Zubimendi was there and we'd put a bid on the table and we tried to lure him away from Real Sociedad. He just didn't want to come. Like, that's that simple. So I agree with certain aspects, but I think there are just some players in this squad who he believes, no matter the level of quality, that they don't fit his system. And if they don't fit his system, he's not going to try them. Like Harvey Elliott, I am absolutely stunned at the fact that Harvey Elliott has not had more game time. That no one's tried him in a number 10 position. That, like, I feel like he's a player against a low block that you could call upon because he's a little bit cute. He's good with the ball at his feet, and his pre-season was absolutely superb, by the way, in that number 10 position. But Slot hasn't gone with him because for some reason Slot doesn't think he fits the system or doesn't like him in the roles that he wants in the system. And I think we've got into the season and we're where we are now, and if he was to try and do any if he was to change it about and take risks and have a look, and then Liverpool lost the league, everyone would be like, right, well, why is he being an idiot and doing that midway through a season when he knows the blueprint of what's been working for him for the first half of the season? So we're still all trying to figure it out. The factor of why come to Liverpool, well, the answer is because it's Liverpool.
No, I get it. I understand it. What I'm saying is,
go and fight for a place. If you don't believe you're good enough to knock off a Ryan Gravenberch, who, by the way, has been superb, but was never supposed to be Liverpool's number 6 at the start of the season, then why are you playing football? Why are you not backing yourself? Go and back yourself to do that.
That might be why he's going to Arsenal instead. I don't know. Maybe
yeah, but I'm not sure Liverpool is still interested in Zubimendi right now.
That was the kind of noise that came out, but that could just be a bit like, oh, I never liked you anyway.
Yeah,
one of those.
You were turned down and you don't like them anyway. It's good. I suppose the last question sounds to start round the one up, like, and again, and this is what happens when you do this transfer show. Sometimes it can, again, I probably shouldn't read chat sometimes because it can be very, over the top at times. But like, Liverpool do still have a very good squad. If you look at the bench, if you look at the bench Liverpool had at the weekend, and Gomez and Nunez, one's injured, one's suspended, it was still a bench full of senior players. Like, this idea Liverpool don't have depth, I don't believe, but there are definitely a couple of positions that you're holding your breath on. And if it's just whether in this month, can you go and get someone who's good enough to play or willing to sit on your bench? And that is, and by the way, even to sit on Liverpool's bench, you've got to be a pretty good player. There's not many shit ones knocking about. You know what I mean? Like Liverpool built themselves a very strong squad. The net isn't as far cast as you know. For example, Arsenal are just looking to loan a striker, and it feels like they're calling everybody because they're just desperate. They haven't got anyone. Liverpool just don't act like that one. Therefore, when when there is someone like a Kerkez available, potentially available, it kind of thinks like, why? If he's available and you think he wants to join you, and you think he's good enough, that probably is the type of player you want to go and get now. What are you waiting for? Yeah,
I would have said exactly the same. And this isn't to say, we don't need to spend money or whatever, but it is very difficult to improve Liverpool's squad. I was always, when we were kind of building under Klopp, I was always one of the people who say, why we don't need to buy squad players. We buy players to go into the starting 11, and the starting 11 who are getting knocked out become the squad players. But when you're in a position like you are now, and it's January, and you're trying to get to the end of the season and stay at the top, there is an argument to be going and buying a striker that can come in and score a few goals for you that wouldn't necessarily, in the long term, be your number 9. I don't think that will be the case this window because we've got, at the moment, Jota's fit, which is obviously a big help. Nunez is fit at the moment, and Diaz can play there. But like you say, I don't think it's as easy as just going, here's 50 million, we'll go and buy you, we'll go and buy you, we'll go and buy you, because how ultimately top players want to be playing every week, and if they know that they might not be getting in the starting 11, like Zubimendi, as bad as it kind of sounds for us, because we'd all love to play for Liverpool and we'd be fighting for the shirt, they probably have the attraction of like Zubimendi of London, for example, and having that starting berth every week. I think it's massive, and it's really not easy to just go out and buy players, especially in January.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, no, I would like Liverpool to make I would like Liverpool to sign players. This idea that I'm not defending anybody. No. I think Liverpool, for me, I would go and get the left back. I hear all the noise about everybody else. I think left back will be the most important one.
This is why Kerkez makes so much sense, even if it's 10-20 million maybe more than it would be in the summer. It's because that is clearly a position we can strengthen on at the moment.
It's also a case of, if you're gonna do it in the summer, is it worth the extra 10 mil now to do it now and have a better chance at winning the league?
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. That is my point. I think Liverpool don't need to make 4 or 5 signings. They don't need to do that. We all would love a little bit of a boost. I think that helps, adding more competition in there. And like we've mentioned, left back is a really serious problem for Liverpool right now. So that is something that Liverpool need to address come the summer anyway. So if there's a player that you can get for just a little bit more, but you think to yourself, well, this might enhance us winning the league, and we're going to do it anyway, it makes sense. I'm not saying, I don't think Liverpool need to go and buy world-class footballers right now in every position. Of course not. That's not what it is. We'd all just like Liverpool to go and identify targets and then go after them if they're going to do them in the summer anyway, because it helps you out now. And other teams don't stand still. Other teams are working in the background. Other teams are rebuilding as we're speaking now. And your top targets might go elsewhere. Zubimendi, one of them. If he's still one of your targets, he's getting off somewhere now. He'll be going to one of your rivals to try and win this league. So yeah, I'm in the boat of, truthfully, I do not care anymore about transfers because like I used to get so angry over them, and now I learn that my life's a lot better when you expect absolutely nothing and you take no notice of what goes on.
My thinking is, by the way, and I'm getting some abuse in this chat, and maybe I've misunderstood what people were saying. I think Liverpool should sign a left back this year. I would do it right now. I think it's the team that you could improve. I think you're holding your breath on a few other ones. Like, for example, what happens if Virgil gets... There's no one you can have to back up Virgil Van Dijk. You've just got to hope that your options are good. I think left back is definitely one that you could go and do. And I think there are options out there. I think for other positions, January can be tough. Yeah. For example, if Liverpool want a believer from Brighton, well, that's just... there's no world. I don't think we're Brighton let that happen. I've seen people mention Alex Isak in the chat. Well, that just isn't going to happen. Why on earth are Newcastle going to do that? They're just not. And that's kind of the point. The top level players tend to move more in the summer, but I think left back is one where there's actually enough options out there better than what we've got because I don't think our current first option is playing particularly well, and I don't think it's just a run of form. But so I go back to the Kerkez. It links in Semenyo. Semenyo would make sense as a summer signing, because I don't think Liverpool need to sign another forward right now. They've got 6 potential ones. But I think left-back is an area of the team, Sam, that they could go and get done. And if you had to guess, and again, I think we're all suggesting we don't think too much is going to happen this window. We hope it does, but probably not. Is it left-back that where you see them pushing the button, or is it maybe defensive midfielder is a centre-back? Because they seem to be the positions that people are talking about.
Left back seems to be the only kind of credible link that's come out at the moment. Obviously, the Kvaratskhelia one came out, but that seemed unlikely to me at the time as well as a January signing, because we've got the 2 left wingers already. Yeah. And Kvaratskhelia can play on the right, but Mo Salah doesn't show any signs of getting injured, does he? And so that never seemed probable to me, and it looks like he's off to PSG now, who were losing to a 5th division team, I believe. In the French Cup. I think they won in the end, but that's just a side note of why you're going to PSG. But anyway, not salty at all about that.
I think it's worth saying as well, like Liverpool, and this goes back to the Kerkez one to round up Chloe, and I've been saying that for a while, but like if United and City are in for them, we have seen Liverpool go early on a transfer in January to beat the crowd. They did it with Luis Diaz, they did it with Cody Gakpo. I think even if you are his number one destination, whatever, things can change very, very quickly. All of a sudden he decides, City, Gvardiol breaks his leg, touch wood, doesn't happen for him, bless him, and then all of a sudden he thinks, I'll go to Manchester City, or Man United go and throw bazillions of quid at players like they do in the summer. So if you've got a player who looks like he's available and is potentially wants to join you probably could just go and do it now.
Yeah, you could. Obviously, this is a thing that Liverpool have to decide on, though, because, like we said, it's easy for us sitting here. It's not our money that we're messing about with. The standpoint is that we'd all love Liverpool to go and improve the squad now, especially with a player that you think is going to be first team for the next however many years. Easier said than done. And Liverpool have a great squad. We have a better squad than Arsenal and City in my eyes. But you just, whilst you're ahead, you just kind of want to nail the advantage and make sure that you take every opportunity that you get. And let's hope that maybe we do something. And even if we don't do something, let's hope that we go and win the league, because we've gave ourselves a good enough chance to go and do something. I think we're going to win the league anyway, but I think we can make it much easier for ourselves to do something. We have to press home the advantage and make the obvious signings we need in January, but we won't with these owners. The owners thing is a massive conversation, and we've got 2 minutes left in the show. Talking up that can of worms now would be mad, Sam, but like
I would say that's the one criticism not the one criticism, one kind of footballing criticism I'd have of them is we've maybe shown a little bit of a lack of ambition at times.
No, and listen, I think we've sat here most windows and I wish we'd have done that one more. And I don't know enough about the inner workings of Liverpool to say is John Henry and Tom Werner going to Richard Hughes? You've got no money. You are not having any money. Or is Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards sitting on whatever amount they've got, and they're I don't know. I just don't know enough about it, and that's why I always think it's a difficult conversation. But what I would say is that, yeah, I think there's certainly 1 or 2 players who seem to be available who maybe weren't expecting to be, who they might be able to go and get in this window. But I reiterate, I don't think it's the end of the world if they don't. I failed. I might be wrong, or maybe I'm delusional or whatever. I don't see the sky falling in, Chloe. I feel like you can. Like I say, you can help yourself a little bit more if you wanted to. That's what the window's there for, is to help you. You can use it. You don't have to just not do anything on it.
It sets us up for next season as well. If Kerkez gets an extra 6 months now, it'd be better for it at the start of next year.
Yeah, they've done it before in December. They've done it with Diaz. They've done it with Gakpo.
If there's a top target out there that Liverpool absolutely love, and someone else goes in for them, Liverpool will be there, because we've done it several times before. If the likes of Zubimendi ends up at Arsenal, Liverpool might have just not wanted them that much in the end. Whether that's the correct thing or not, a different matter. But I feel like when there's an opportunity like the Diaz situation or the Gakpo situation, and Liverpool have been monitoring them and really like them, and you think they're going to go to a different team, that's when Liverpool.
I don't think they panic as much as we do, because we're half shit houses a little bit sometimes on this one, and I don't think they are like that. But I agree. I think they're not just going to panic into buying someone, Sam. It's going to have to be someone they've done their homework on, they've wanted for a long time, and they become available. They don't tend to panic, because when they panic, they get it wrong. Arthur Meadows a panic, and Ben Davies knows, and Kabak. I think there's enough ones out there to suggest when they panic, you're half wasting your time anyway. It'd have to be someone, and that's why I go back to Kerkez, because he's one whose name's been linked for like over 8 months now. They know everything they need to know about him. I feel like, again, that's the one I keep going back to, because there's a history of them doing this kind of stuff.
I would say that in terms of them panicking, I don't think that really happens at all. No. And when it does, it has been even like what Kabak was, 8-10 million or something, and they haven't been big money kind of failures. The only one who wasn't a panic buy was Nunez, who's, even Katie you can say was a good player, but just fitness issues. Could argue the same for Oxlade-Chamberlain. Nunez is the only player that's not really lived up to his expectations, and by all accounts that was a Klopp signing, really. And you could say the same about Caicedo. You could have said maybe, because we did have the money there to go and spend 115 million, and that felt like a Klopp signing. But obviously we didn't. We've ended up with Endo. And this is where I come back to, not specifically on Caicedo, because Chelsea outbid us, and we're not going above 115 million. That's just silly, especially for Caicedo. He didn't exactly hit the ground running. But it did feel like, okay, we went and signed Endo for 15 million. But do we win the league last year if we had bought someone? That's maybe where you could criticise the owner's kind of lack of ambition a little bit. Yep. And you could say the same this window, like Kerkez, 50 million. That's where we should be signing him instead of paying 30 million for him in the summer, because it's showing that extra ambition that we're a big player, we're a big club, we need to act like it. And that's not saying go and do this for every signing we have, because that's why Man United are in the position they're in, because they've just been silly really with the money. But it does feel like if there is one criticism of FSG, it's in the footballing side of things. It's just be a bit more proactive rather than reactive. Yeah,
absolutely. We'll see how it all pans out over the next couple of weeks if Liverpool decide to go into the market, or in fact they choose not to. Thanks, Chloe. Thanks, Sam. Thanks all you guys for watching or listening to this episode of the Liverpool Transfer Podcast. There will be another one next week. See you all there.